Om Gam Ganapatye Namaha. Kaliyugada Kalpataru, the fifth delight, Shri Raghavendra Gurusarvabhauma. Chapter 104, Shri Raghavendra Vijaya Mahakavya. When the great and glorious Rayaru, that is Shri Raghavendra Swamigalu, arrived at Srirangapatana, a sacred daily routine was established. Surrounded by learned scholars and Dharma devout followers, he would perform morning baths in the river Kaveri, darshan of Sri Ranganatha, recitation, meditation, and austerity in the Matha, puja of Sri Moolarama, distribution of Tirtha Prasada, and in the evenings, scholarly assemblies featuring lectures by scholars, Sri Rayaru's discourses, deep spiritual discussions, arati, and distribution of sacred mantrakshite. Every morning, scholars and spiritual seekers, often in the hundreds, gathered at the Matha to hear Sri Rayaru's teachings on Nyaya, Vedanta, Vyakarana, Mimamsa, and other Shastras. The eloquence that flowed from Sri Rayaru's lotus-like mouth was like the river Ganga, pure, continuous, and deeply uplifting. All who listened became utterly immersed in the bliss of his words. Many scholars, perplexed by difficult concepts in various Shastras, would respectfully approach Sri Rayaru for clarification. With his illuminating answers, their doubts were resolved, and they went away content. Delicate Dharma-related topics, traditional practices, and nuances of Sanatana Dharma were openly discussed in the assemblies. Sri Rayaru's clear interpretation and definitive resolutions filled the hearts of the devotees with supreme joy. One day, while Sri Rayaru was delivering such a lesson to his disciples, Narayanacharya, a learned scholar, and his own nephew, arrived alongside Narayanacharya. Bowing before Sri Rayaru, Narayanacharya placed a large bound manuscript before him. Narayanacharya said, "Mahaswami, your devoted disciple Narayana has composed a Mahakavya, that is epic poem. This is the work." Learning the one of his disciples had composed such a work, Sri Rayaru was pleased and delighted. With a gentle smile, he asked, "Narayana, what kind of poem is this?" "Sri Raghavendra Vijaya, a Mahakavya is offered." Venkata, "Respected Guru, this is a Mahakavya, that is epic poem, titled Sri Raghavendra Vijaya." Rayaru, in surprise, "What? A poem about me?" Narayana, folding his hands, "Yes, Gurudeva. For many years, I had wished to compose an epic poem glorifying your victories. I have been collecting material for this work for over a long time. After we received your blessings and travelled from Navavrindavana to Kumbhakona, I spent 7 days in seclusion and service at the Vrindavana of Sri Vijayendra Tirtharu. There, I received a divine vision of Guru himself, smiling and blessing me with mantrakshite, encouraging me to compose the poem. Inspired, I wrote the poem day and night as per my ability. I completed most of it there and just recently completed the final part. Today, I offer it at your lotus feet. Kindly review it and bless me." Rayaru, "May Sri Hari bless you." Narayana, "How many cantos, that is sargas, does this poem contain?" Narayana, "Swami, it is composed in 16 cantos." Rayaru, "16 cantos? No, that won't do." Everyone was astonished at Sri Rayaru's sudden refusal. Narayanacharya asked, "Mahaswami, what does this mean? We don't understand your objection." Rayaru, "Narayana, the epic Sri Madhva Vijaya describing the life of Sri Madhvacharya, the world teacher, contains 16 cantos. So, how can my life story also be in 16 cantos? That would make it equivalent, and we can never accept any such parity with the Adiguru. Even our poem must not resemble his in structure. Therefore, remove 6 cantos." Narayana, distressed, "Please don't say that, Mahaswami. The last 6 cantos contain descriptions of your unparalleled scholarships, your authorship of acclaimed works on the Brahma Sutras and other Shastras, your trumps in philosophical debates, your establishment of Dvaita Siddhanta, your disciplinic lineage from Padmanabha Tirtharu, Jayatirtharu, and Vibhudendra Tirtharu, your teaching and outreach, and your many divine qualities, removing them would, Rayaru smilingly, Narayana, it is better for these virtues to be permanently inscribed in the hearts of the virtuous than in the verses of a poem. This is higher. So please remove 6 cantos, Narayana. But Gurudeva, won't that leave the poem incomplete? There won't ever be a proper closing benediction, that is Mangala. Rayaru, reading the final portion, smiling gently, Narayana, your poem is already complete in 10 cantos. In the 10th canto, you have described how I sit in meditation on Sri Hari after the evening lamp offering, and how poets praise me spontaneously. That is the real conclusion. What can be more fitting than Hari Dhyana as the conclusion? Narayana quietly, even so, Narayana, what is more important, the 6 additional cantos or our joyful blessings to you? Narayana, Mahaswami, your blessings are more precious to me than all the fortune in the world. Rayaru, with a smile, then please remove the 6 cantos. Narayana, what should I do with them, Gurudeva? Rayaru, offer them in the sacred river Kaveri near the temple of Sri Ranganatha. With reverence, Narayanacharya obeyed. He separated the last 6 cantos from the manuscripts and immersed them in the Kaveri river. When he returned, there was visible sadness on his face, as though he had lost something precious. Sri Rayaru called him near, comforted him with gentle words, and said, Narayana, your poem, even with 10 cantos, will be renowned across the world. It will bring you fame and respect as a great poet. The Kavya bears the blessings of Sri Moolarama, Sri Madhvacharyaru, and ourselves. Do not worry about the absence of Mangala Shloka. If you still feel incomplete, go ahead, now compose a concluding benedictory verse, Mangala, and a Farashruti to add. Let it be so beautiful that it becomes a shining example of epic poetry's conclusion. Why, wait, right here in this very assembly, let's see you compose a spontaneous verse, that is Ashokavita, that brings the poem to a close. Filled with supreme bliss by Sri Rayaru's nectar-like words, Narayanacharya bowed reverently to the Guru and inscribed on the spot, composed a concluding benedictory verse by skillfully weaving together the first lines of 4 famous Mahakavya into a single, elegant Mangala Shloka, that is, closing blessing. Observing Narayanacharya's poetic brilliance, the entire assembly of scholars was struck with wonder and joy, and together they exclaimed, well done, while clapping in appreciation. Narayanacharya's Farashruti verse, result of reciting the poem. He then recited the Farashruti, a verse declaring the fruits of reading or hearing the work. Here's the translated version. Salutations to the beloved ascetic Shri Raghavendra, dear to Lord Sri Rama, who shines like the full moon in dark night of ignorance spread by deceitful false teachers, who is praised by noble assemblies and grants all desires, who is the refuge of Brahmins and those devoted to worship. He, by whose grace even the most difficult to comprehend knowledge becomes accessible and clear. On hearing the most auspicious and benevolent blessing, all present were filled with bliss. Then, with a smiling face, Sri Rayaru said, Narayana, now complete your kavya by concluding with a verse that introduces yourself, your lineage and background. Obeying this instruction, Narayanacharya composed and declared the final verse of the kavya, which is translated as, thus ends this charming poem, Raghavendra Vijaya, composed by Narayana, whose sweet, noble speech flows with compassion, born of the revered lineage of Kashyapa Gotra, descendant of the noble Padarshani family, son of the great scholar Sri Lakshmi Narasimhavitala and Sri Venkatamamani. Sri Rayaru, deeply pleased, blessed Narayana and said, Narayana, use this very verse at the end of each canto, Sarga. with the respective contour number indicated. Let this be your signature across the entire poem. At that moment, a scholar in the assembly respectfully bowed to Sri Rayaru and humbly submitted, Mahaswami, please bless us with the fortune of hearing this Mahakavya. Kindly instruct Acharya Narayana, who is not only a gifted scholar but also an accomplished poet, to recite and translate the poem for the delight and upliftment of all gathered here. Sripadangalavaru, pleased by the request, joyfully gave his blessing. Tatastu, so be it. That very evening, Sri Narayanacharya began the recitation and interpretation, that is, Vachana Anuvada, of Shri Raghavendra Vijaya before the gathering of scholars. News of the event reached Shri Devaraja Vadiyar, the ruler of the Karnataka kingdom, and brought him immense joy. For a grand Mahakavya describing Sri Raghavendra Swamigalu, a revered leader of the Madhva tradition and a native Kannada saint, was being composed and read by another great Kannada scholar and poet right in his royal capital, in the presence of the saint himself. The Maharaja, inspired by the literary and spiritual greatness of the movement, deemed it his royal duty to honor the poet. Accompanied by his royal court scholars, he personally attended one of the final sessions of the Kavya Anuvada Sabha, that is, Poetic Translation Assembly. Overwhelmed with happiness, he witnessed firsthand the poetic richness of the work. The poetic style of Sri Narayanacharya, his command over prosody, meter, poetic devices, that is, alankara, his mastery of meaningful diction, his lyrical structure, and the depth of meaning left the entire audience entranced. Just listening to the verse brought them pure joy. The Kavya's richness, comparable to Navaratna Sabha traditions of yore, was evident to all. Scholars anonymously praised it as a complete Mahakavya, fulfilling all the hallmarks of the genre, brilliantly portraying the divine life and virtues of Sri Raghavendra Swamigalu, not just entertaining but also invoking deep waves of devotion in every listener's heart. On the final day of the recitation, the Maharaja himself attended the assembly, and after the Mangala auspicious conclusion of the poem and its translation, publicly praised Narayanacharya. In recognition of his talent and devotion, the king conferred upon him the title Mahakavi, that is, great poet, accompanied by a gold armlet, a gold medal, a precious neck ornament, a pair of royal shawls, and golden coins. Thus, the public presentation and offering of Sri Raghavendra Vijaya Mahakavya concluded amidst chants of Jai Jai Sri Raghavendra, celebrating the greatness of the saint, the poet, and the divine Kavya that immortalized them both. After being honored by Sri Devaraja Vadiyar and having completed the Chaturmasya vow, Sri Raghavendra Swamigalu departed from Srirangapatna and, following the itinerary of his spiritual travels, graced the town of Atturu. There, the temple priest extolled the glory of Sri Brahmanya Tirtharu, the illustrious Guru who was responsible for recognizing and coronating Sri Vyasaraja Itivarya on the great Mahapita, thus initiating his divine mission and legacy. They humbly submitted this history before Sri Raghavendra Swamigalu, praying for his blessings. Sripadangalavaru smiled gently and remarked, "The Guru of Vyasarajaru is also my Guru." By this, he acknowledged the sacred continuity and oneness in the Guru Parampara. That day, he offered water, Hastodaka, ceremonially to Sri Brahmanya Tirtharu and received Phalamantrakshite, that is, blessed offerings, from the priest. From there, he continued his pilgrimage, visited Bengaluru, Tumukuru, and Hiriyoru, and then proceeded towards Chitradurga. Hari Om. Om Sri Krishnarpanamastu.